Has anyone ever finished the phrase, "I wouldn't have minded," but in such a way that the person listening doesn't immediately secretly think, "Oh yes, you would. Of course you'd have minded. The whole point of this story is that someone did a big thing you minded, and then did a small thing you also minded. Certainly the small extra bad thing will have rubbed salt into the wound of the large main bad thing, but let's not forget that although salt rubbing is bad, it's not as bad as making a wound. Indeed, if the wound wasn't there, the salt rubbing would be at worst just weird, and at best some sort of exotic massage. Or the preliminaries to cooking a delicious roast chicken. A chicken who would not then be right in saying, "I wouldn't have minded being killed and roasted if it wasn't for the salt massage that came in between." In particular, this is a thing people say when they've been dumped. "I wouldn't mind, but she did it by text. I wouldn't have minded, but he did it on my birthday. That was the worst thing." It wasn't though, was it? The person you thought was excellent told you they do not think you are similarly excellent, or at least not excellent enough that they want you hanging around all the time. That was the worst thing. The birthday thing was just the shit icing on the turdy cake. This is all sounding very heartless, but I don't mean it to. I'm not saying, "How dare you find a crumb of comfort to ease the misery? Sit there and suffer like a man and or woman." I just worry that if we're not careful, we'll get to a point where someone contemplating ending a relationship will feel duty-bound to sweeten the pill of heartbreak by providing a focus for anger. The mark of the truly sensitive and considerate relationship leaver will be to dump their dumpee in as heartless a way as possible, so as to allow them to make that the story, rather than the fact that someone they wanted to be with doesn't want to be with them. But then, of course, that will, in turn, become the accepted norm, and a deadly arms race will be inevitable, in order to keep breaking new ground of suitably palliative outrage. So, anyway, she dumped me on my birthday, in front of my dad, and so that she could go out with my dad. You know, like normal. And the thing is, I wouldn't have minded if she hadn't then thrown me into a tank of sharks. That was what really stung. In many ways, escaping from the sharks was the worst part of it. Obviously, being thrown into a tank of sharks probably would be the worst part of it, assuming they were sharks that attacked rather than small tame sharks that ignore you. But that might lead to this reasoning. Actually, you know what? I'm glad she threw me to the sharks. It gave me a better perspective on the whole thing. She made this whole thing a lot easier. How nice of her. I love her. This is hell. And in that world, the truly heartless / considerate / I think I've lost count thing would be to dump someone in the most gentle and caring way possible. I wouldn't have minded, but she was so kind. She didn't give me a single straw of outrage to cling to. I was left facing the unassailable fact that someone extremely attractive and loving who I want to be with doesn't feel the same about me. That's what really stung.